It's about my journey moving back home and like reconnecting and, figuring out who I am as an adult in my tribal community, and then just kind of singing it out and being inspired by the land, the water, the sky, being inspired by like going on walks in our homelands and along our waters, and just kind of reeling all of that in and expressing it within a record. So yeah, for sure.
My guest on today's episode is KP, a musician who releases music under the moniker of Black Belt Eagle Scout. KP makes profoundly beautiful music, and the Black Belt Eagle Scout record from 2023, The Land, the Water, the Sky, is an absolute masterpiece. With influences drawn from alternative rock and indigenous music traditions, the album is filled with beautiful atmospherics, entrancing rhythms, pensive guitar, and captivating vocals that would fit right at home on a mixtape with Mazzy Star and early 2000s Wilco. Comparisons and inscriptions, however, don't really do it justice. It's a beautiful record that deserves your undivided attention. We recorded this conversation back in January 2024, before Black Belt Eagle Scout opened for Sleater-Kinney in the spring. Since then, KP was diagnosed with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, which has made playing and performing music quite challenging. If you have the means, please consider donating to the GoFundMe that was set up to help ease the burden as she heals and recovers, which I will link to in the show notes and transcript at letsmixtape.com, along with a raffle of beautiful earrings inspired by the land, the water, the sky that is currently going on to benefit the GoFundMe. While you can stream Black Belt Eagle Scout wherever you get your streaming, I'd also encourage you to pick up an album or some merch where you can also find linked in the show notes. All 3 LPs will look great on your record shelf right next to that copy of The Hot Rock by Sleater-Kinney, which is where we're kicking off our conversation today. Let's make a mixtape. KP, thank you so much for joining me on this season of Let's Make a Mixtape. We are talking, of course, about songs that remind us of home, and you picked Sleater-Kinney's from The Hot Rock. You picked Get Up. Why does this song remind you of home? Why did you pick this song?
Well, there were so many songs that I could choose from because there are a ton of songs that remind me of home. And I was like, I could go this direction. I could go that direction. There's so many things. But I just so happened to be going on tour with Sleater-Kinney in a month. And so I was like, you know what? They have so many incredible songs that remind me of home. One in particular is Get Up. It was my favorite song growing up. And I'm from the Swinomish Indian tribal community. So it's a little area in Northwest Washington State, along the water. I live on an island, although it doesn't seem like an island because it's connected by a bridge. And Swinomish is about an hour or so north of Seattle, and then maybe like 2.5 hours north of Olympia, where the band started. And so it's kind of like a local connection to that band. And yeah, Get Up is a great song. I love the chords in it. It's beautiful. And that was one of the songs that I learned to play the drums to.
Oh, wait, did you start off playing the drums?
No, I sort of like started playing guitar and drums at the same time. But piano is one of my first instruments, and then the flute is also one of my first instruments. And so guitar and drums, kind of like the rock stuff, came later.
Mm-hmm.
After the classical, school band era of my life. So yeah, yeah, I'm a drummer, and I play drums on all of my records. But yeah, it's a really cool beat, and I remember sitting in my bedroom on the res, just kind of trying to figure out what that beat that Janet was playing, and I finally got it because it's like has some hits on like an off beat, and then you have to be on an on beat. And it was a really cool way to learn how to organize the notes of a drum beat in my head. So yeah.
That's really cool. I wouldn't even say it's a primary musical talent. I play bass and only bass. I wish I was a little bit more well versed in the instruments. But looking at weird rhythms and trying to dissect them and get that into my brain, it's always such an interesting challenge. But like once it clicks, I feel like it's always permanently there, and I can never get rid of it. But those weird rhythms are fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can only imagine is doing that with the drums too. That's incredible. Yeah, that's those weird rhythms, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also like it stuck out too just because it was hard.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
hard to figure it out. And then I listened to that song over and over and over again. It was also at a time when I discovered the Rock and Roll Camp for Girls
Oh,
in
cool.
Portland, Oregon. And so you had to like create an express yourself piece, which was anything from like writing to like, recording a song to painting, anything that expressed yourself. And so I wrote something about the song Get Up in order to get into the Rock and Roll Camp for Girls. And I originally uh, tried to sign up for guitar, but I think for whatever session I was going to, they had already filled the guitar spots, and so my second choice was drums. And so I went there and I learned some more drums.
Amazing. And how long did you stick with that camp? Did you um
I was a part of it for like over 10 years or so.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it just was a lifestyle because it had a really great community, and I met a lot of friends. I have friends that have been in my life since, my first day of going to the music camp. And then I just kind of stayed involved because it was a great community of people to like learn from and to play music with. So I did everything from like being a teacher to being a staff member, and then I was one of the chairs of their board of directors. So it was a long relationship, and then I eventually stopped just because I was touring a lot, and then I ended up moving, and yeah, so
Very cool. It's so I guess kind of tying it back, the Get Up is in a way it has that geographical tie to home for you being that Sleater-Kinney were geographically close, but also in a way home in terms of your origins as you were kind of diving into learning drums more and diving into that more rock
yeah.
that style. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember when I first learned about Sleater-Kinney, and I think it was maybe like a couple years after their album One Beat came out, and then maybe they were about um, to put out the record after that. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. It's the one that The Woods. And so they had already had so many albums, and I just dove in. And I remember like driving to this small town, city town called Anacortes, and listening to like I Want to Be Your Joey Ramone and like kind of older stuff. And I remember my dad being like, "What is this that we're listening to?" And I remember saying like, "It's this cool band called Sleater-Kinney." I was listening, had all the CDs in my backpack. Um,
Oh, I remember those days.
yeah, yeah.
Before converting to iPod, I think I had like 2 or 3 massive binders that would just weigh me down whenever I
I I
traveled.
has I remember having a backpack that, like, my mom got me from Target, and
Yeah.
it had all of my CDs in it, and I just would carry it around. And, like, I did have one of those booklets too,
Mhm.
and could just go and choose whichever I wanted to listen to, and yeah, those were the days.
I never I always brought all of them with me, and I don't think I ever listened to, more than a handful. I mean, a small percentage, but I'm carrying around this heavy binder of CDs just because I feel like I'm gonna want to listen to something and be in the mood for it and need it, but I won't have it, so I want to make sure that I have it. I just
Yeah.
always
I feel like people were maybe more dedicated to music back then, just because you had to, like, physically take it with you
right.
in maybe not the most, organized way, or yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit. You're touring with Sleater-Kinney coming up here. It seems like they were a very formational band for you. What's that like
Um
getting to go on this tour?
I mean, it's the coolest thing in the world. Like, if you would have told me when I was like, I don't know, like 15, guess what, KP? This band you're listening to right now, you're gonna go on tour with them. I would have slapped you. I would have been like, no, what are you talking about? Me? Like, who even am I in this moment? But, I've worked hard in my life, and I have gone on tour and made friends with all sorts of musicians. And luckily, my music fits in the same genre as theirs. So it just kind of, I was always, I think, on this path to tour with them in some capacity or whatnot. And so it's happening. I got a chance to play in their band, which was like really awesome too. It was not this last September, but the September before that, so 2022. Um, I played. They like last minute needed a guitarist because my friend Fabi was playing with them and she couldn't do this show in Chicago at Riot Fest.
Oh,
And so
cool.
that was a really weird and cool experience, which was like, I was like, sure, I feel like I can learn all of your set in a week and come play this festival with you. That's totally no problem. And I did, but I didn't realize that Riot Fest is huge, like thousands and thousands of people
Oh, wow.
until like pretty much right before we are going up on stage to play. And then I was like, what am I doing?
Is that the biggest stage slash crowd that you've played to?
It might be up there. I don't know if I have. I think so, probably, but maybe there's another one that's big too. Um, I think it's fair. I'm trying to think. Is Newport Folk Festival that big? I don't know if it's as big, or like Pitchfork. I don't know. It might be very, very big because like I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
I mean, those are also some pretty big festivals too. So,
yeah, yeah.
I
Like
mean,
the
that's awesome.
headliner was like Nine Inch Nails, and
Oh,
so.
wow.
But anyway, so like going back to it, I think the beginning is that's the song "Get Up." Like really awesome, inspired me to just kind of think about music in a different way. It has all these like just kind of interesting parts to it, like speaking, and then different kinds of rhythms. And one of the things I really love about it is that there's a guitar line that kind of plays through the whole song. It's this through line that keeps it going, and then there's a lot of things like layered on top that come in and out here and there.
Did you get a chance to play Get Up with them?
No, we didn't play that song. That would have been cool. Um, yeah, um, yeah, mostly like the newer stuff.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, you talk about through lines. Do you feel like you incorporate through lines into your music as you're writing?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I don't even think it's because, like, I, recognize that within that song or whatnot. But when I was in high school, I remember seeing Genevieve Castre play a lot of shows at our local all ages music space back then. It was called the Department of Safety, and she played with a Boss music pedal, uh, a loop station, and I remember being like, "What is that? I wanna know what this is." And so she, gave me all the info, and I, found it and later got one, and that's kind of been one of the bigger factors in my writing is using a loop station, because I write by myself primarily, and so being able to have someone else in the form of a loop, playing with me, it helps me be able to create different parts of the songs. And so some of those guitar through lines are primarily just because I'm looping this guitar part over, and then I happen to write a couple parts along with that guitar loop.
I love there's just something about your music, especially the land, the water, the sky. It feels just very it just flows in just such a peaceful, beautiful way, and it just flows so well together. So that's really interesting. It feels like there's those repetitive moments that really kind of just pull you into it and just kind of keep you in that moment, which I think is incredibly beautiful.
Thank you so much. That is such a really nice thing to say about it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I sorry, yeah, I listen to it a lot. It's just it's beautiful. I love your vocals are just absolutely incredible, and I love the different tones that you play with your guitar that just really complement and accent your vocals so well. And just yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting that record into the world.
I worked with a really good friend, Takia Reed, and she has this band called Divide and Dissolve. Her and I,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we've known each other for a really long time. And so it just kind of naturally came about. We were, destined to make a record together. And
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, that's so cool. Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
so I remember when we were like sharing that we were going to work together. There were a couple people who were like, "So is it going to be a metal album?" Like, no, it's still indie rock. It just has maybe a little bit more like etherealness to it. And so yeah, she really kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone sometimes, which helped me grow, I think, as a musician, because like I would just I would be afraid in the past to do something, and then I wouldn't do it. But whenever I would be like, okay, well, maybe we can do this, she would, like a cheerleader, be like, yeah, let's do it, let's go for it. And then that ended up, taking us in down these paths and roads that I think really were beneficial to this, record and like this style of songwriting that we're going towards. So it was really fun, and I think that it allowed me to see what it's like when you collaborate and when you expand and when you let people into your world and in your creative, crafts. And so, yeah, it was a good experience to learn from.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I love they put out a record last year, right? I believe
Yeah.
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. I didn't know you collaborated. Are there any other similar collaborative experiences that you've had that? Um,
Um, I started writing music with my friend Mato Wayuhi, and he kind of does like hip hop
oh,
music.
cool.
He is most known, I would say, for being for writing the score and the music for the television show Reservation Dogs.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah, and so he has some like original songs in that show and score. But we started collaborating at the end of 2022, and then we played our first show last year in Vancouver, BC, and then we're trying to get some more time um, together to collaborate. And it's kind of like, I don't know, like cute indie rock with some beats and some singing in it, and it's nice to be able to do that style of music and see what comes from just like actually like, you know him writing parts and me writing parts and having the instrumentation of both of us be be a part of the song. So that's another collaboration that I've been doing.
Very cool. Yeah, and as you say, pushes you in a direction that you might not necessarily go as you're working on music on your own.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
And you mentioned Reservation Dog. I love how that show used soundtrack uh, throughout, and you had several songs on the soundtrack, correct?
There's a
Is that
couple.
there were a couple? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there was like a couple seconds of a song that me and Mato did. And then in the second season, they had one of my songs open the show, and then one of my, the season, and one of my songs close the season. And that was really cool. But yeah, the music in those TV shows has been really cool because it's also introduced me to other Indigenous artists and their songs, and yeah, it's been really great to kind of be a part of that family, even if it's just like a couple songs in it. You can still say, "Oh, I'm a part of Reservation Dogs," and it's a cool thing because it just opened so many doors for people, especially Indigenous creatives in the world.
Do you feel like um, have you seen a little bit more Indigenous representation over the past years in overall in terms of media? I mean, nowhere where it should be, obviously, but do you feel like it's coming to more prominence?
Yeah, and I mean, this is my own opinion. I feel like there's probably like various other depths of who's seen what, but like just my perspective of being in the music scene and everything, like I think that the explosion of Reservation Dogs something that really kind of sparked so many opportunities for other shows. And then at the same time, like with those actors in those shows, they were doing all these other shows too, like Rutherford Falls and then like Dark Winds and then just like all of these other types of like media. And then like it kind of just like it spread fast, I think. And also with the rise of more like social media and with just like TikTok, all these like things like that kind of boosted it because I remember like when I was going on tour in like 2018 being like, I feel very alone. And sometimes I still do just because I'm like, am in the indie rock world and there are tons of indigenous musicians, but they're just in other genres. And so, yeah, I think that it's been awesome to see so much representation come about, and but not just saying like it's representation for representation's sake. It's incredible talent,
Yeah.
like just like sheer talent and like interesting, beautiful stories, and just this door open to so many cool things that I think that people, are interested in and they want to learn more about. So, yeah, it's that's my answer, I guess, to your question.
No, that's fascinating. I feel like I'm arguably fairly removed um, from indigenous culture, but I feel like I have seen in mainstream popular media it come to more prominence. And with the radio show that I've done, I tried to dig into different music cultures around the world, but also American um, or Island indigenous music as well, and finding bands like Crossing of Indian Tribes and stuff, which they're diving into their records. It's just incredible. This music that was like buried by the FBI. It's like, God damn it. What the fuck? This music is so good, but we've hidden it from our cultural narrative. And so I'm glad to see that it seems to be coming out a little bit more. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's, um, yeah, I think it's beautiful, and I'm so glad to say. I really want a new Weed Rat record. Um,
Yeah, I mean, also, I'm like, do they have one?
I,
I feel like
yeah.
I've heard demos, but I don't know if they have like a full length album. Maybe they have live stuff. I hope that you I'm like slowly clicking on their Bandcamp. I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe they have some singles and oh no. They literally have an album. Okay. Well, yeah,
Wait,
I would
oh,
like
do they
to.
have a new one? Wait.
Yeah, they well no, they I'm looking at one on their Bandcamp from 2015,
Oh, okay.
The Rat Cometh. Um, and then I think that I've seen them live so many times that I
Really?
just like just know their songs from, seeing them live. But yeah, one of my dreams and goals in life, and I'm slowly trying to get there, is to have my own recording studio,
Ooh. Okay.
and also so that I can record indigenous musicians, and primarily for free, especially if like, finances are a barrier for getting, their stuff recorded. But yeah, so that's something, and I was always like, Weed Rat, I want them to be the first people I record.
Favorite. That's amazing. To creating your own recording studio to record indigenous musicians. That's amazing. That's an amazing goal.
Yeah, yeah. I think hopefully I'll just keep going at it. It's a slow pace just because, it's I've got a lot going on, and then you have to put a bunch of you have to invest in nice things.
Yeah, of course. Well, and you have a day job at a nonprofit, correct? At the
I do.
oh,
Yeah.
that's fun.
I've been like working for them since 2020. It was during the time when, the pandemic happened, and then everybody sort of had to switch what they're doing. And so I, I, well, like I said earlier, I worked for the Rock and Roll Camp for Girls. They were a nonprofit, so I had some experience. And then I also, before that, too, worked at a music venue booking shows. And so I had this kind of experience that I was like, okay, find a day job. And so yeah, I still work for them, and we're coming into this year, going to announce some grants and celebrate 21 years of the nonprofit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been around
Yeah, that's
for a bit.
exciting.
But
And
yeah.
what exactly providing grants and leadership development is the primary?
Yeah, that's on the website, but
Yeah,
it's
it's okay.
like it's so we service Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana, and so like Native artists and tribes and Native organizations can apply for funding, whatever type of funding we have at the moment, which I think it's based on like, like our strategic plan and like where we're going and what we want to support. And so, yeah, every year there's usually a grant or two that rolls out, and then we've been trying to put together more programs for people to come together as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and yeah.
Awesome. I love it. It do you feel like it complements your musical and creative output as well?
I think so. There's been times where like we've had to create like videos for like when we announce a grant and they want like background music, and I'll just like hop in GarageBand and create an original song.
Have you used anything that you've created?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
no, oh, for Black Belt Eagle Scout? No, no.
yeah, yeah,
No, it was mainly just like, this is really cool that I can do this for my job.
yeah.
I'm creating this atmosphere in this video for them.
Hmm. That's awesome. That's so cool. And um, so I guess tying the music that you're creating, tying that back to home, it feels like the land, the water, the sky, and correct me if I'm completely off base. It feels like it's very much tied to a concept of home. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's about my journey moving back home and like reconnecting. and, figuring out who I am as an adult in my tribal community, and then just kind of singing it out and being inspired by the land, the water, the sky, being inspired by like going on walks in our homelands and along our waters, and just kind of reeling all of that in and expressing it within a record. So yeah, for sure.
And as it's a very specific area of land that you're singing about, but you've toured this all around the world. I think you went to Australia recently. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
how have you found like have people how's the resonance been with other side of the world, and have you seen other indigenous populations from those areas
Yeah,
coming out? And
yeah. I mean, this world is beautiful. Like, to be able to see so much of it is such a privilege, and to be able to just, look around. I learned so much. Like, I'm a res girl. I grew up on a reservation, and I've had so many cool experiences traveling the world, doing things I love, playing music, and meeting beautiful people along the way. I was only in Australia for 2 days, like very, very short time, but when we were in New Zealand, we were able to visit a marae uh, in Auckland. And so kind of like um, an indigenous house, I would say. And yeah, and we got to visit some of the indigenous people from the Auckland area. It was really beautiful, just kind of being welcomed into that space. So yeah, I think that, I don't know, it was a good time. I'm looking for the specific name because I want to mention it. So I'm kind of dawdling, but I actually don't know if I saved it. But oh yeah, and then right before we were in New Zealand, we were in Alaska, and I was invited to play at the Anchorage Museum and Ak Rock Festival in Juneau. And like Ak Rock Festival is like indigenous music festival, and it was really cool to be a part of that as well. And yeah, I remember during one of our songs, Spaces, or right, pretty much right after it, I had my parents on stage singing with me. Pretty much right after
oh
that
wow,
song, they they gave us these necklaces, and they like literally came on stage. I thought that, I was like, "What's going on?" Because we had like two more songs to play,
yeah,
but it was just because my parents were just singing on one song and they're going to go off stage, and they came on stage and they gave us these necklaces, and they like put them on us.
oh
And
wow.
yeah, so there's been like really wonderful experiences like that I've been able to share with other indigenous people in just various places around the world.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it was great. It was fun.
Is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't touched on, or any other indigenous artists that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I mean, Molly Obamsawin
Okay.
like created like these really beautiful songs. Um,
Oh, it was. I think I read an interview. It was like a co-interview between the two of you. Is that correct?
yeah,
And because Portland and Portland, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Portland and Portland. I
All
think
right.
we did something with Talk House, but like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, their music is really beautiful, like a jazz artist. And
Mm.
yeah, so my friend Ray Zaragoza um, has like this new kind of like Americana folk kind of
Mm.
pop song out right now with what is, I always forget how to say their name. Isanabi? Isanabi. I've met them, but I can't remember how to pronounce their artist name. But yeah, so there's a lot of really great, incredible musicians out there.
thank you again so much for taking the time. Is there anything about home or anything else that you would like to say before we sign off?
Just thanks for talking to me, and yeah, I appreciate it.
A massive thank you to KP for joining me on this episode of Let's Make a Mixtape. As I said at the top of the show, please consider contributing to the GoFundMe to help ease the financial burden on KP and her husband. You can find a link to the GoFundMe in the show notes and transcript at letsmixtape.com, where you will also find links to Bandcamp and YouTube embedded videos of the musicians that we talked about and more. On next week's episode, I talk with Sajal Nasrallah of Dunhams and the Muslims. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check out the Season 2 playlist on Spotify or YouTube. You can find the links to those in the show transcript as well at letsmixtape.com. Please subscribe and rate the show to help feed those algorithm gods so other folks can find their way to the show as well. All recording and editing was done by yours truly. Intro and transition music was written and recorded by Scotty Sandwich.